Fighting back against the people who maintain the system. This is the Corapro broadcast with Jay Outlaw. It is another edition of the Corapro program, or I should say the Corapro broadcast. I am Jay Outlaw, and right now there is a crisis happening in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. As I speak, there is wall-to-wall coverage of a shooting, wall-to-wall coverage on all the major and even the minor broadcast outlets, your Fox, CNN, MSNBC, Fox Business, WGN, NBC, all of these, CBS, can't forget about the Caucasian broadcasting system. But so there's wall-to-wall coverage going on. Now, of course, the entire nation is up in arms and everyone is on the edge of their seats. And the reason why I am broadcasting right now is because I just got to point out a couple of things here. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a hoax, because I don't think that it is a hoax, but I do know of a prevailing philosophy of the power structure. And that prevailing philosophy is you never allow a crisis to go to waste, i.e., something happens and you want to use that as an opportunity to push policies, to push activities, things that you did not have justification for, but for this particular circumstance or this crisis. This is a prevailing philosophy of the power structure. And so what we're seeing right now, and here's what the story is as of 1400, Friday, January 6th. And I'm sure more is going to come out, but this is what the official narrative is right now. A 26-year-old man named Esteban Santiago, I believe is his last name. Yes. Entered the Fort Lauderdale airport, one of the terminals, Terminal 2 or something like that, and just opened fire. Apparently or allegedly, he had 3 magazines. I'm not sure what type of weapon he was using, what type of gun he was using, but reports are saying that he had 3 magazines, all 3 of which he emptied. And once he was out of rounds, he simply laid down on the floor and waited for cops to arrive, and they took him into custody. Now, of course, that sets off the panic, and unfortunately, he has allegedly killed 5 people and injured 8. Now, footage has been shown of injured people being carted into hospitals nearby, and it's just been complete pandemonium on the tarmac and all the areas surrounding the airport. You literally have SWAT and all sorts of other tactical teams with AR-15s drawn, and they're positioned all over. Now, here's the thing. I wish I could number the law enforcement officers that are on the scene and the vehicles and all of the resources that are there, and also news crews all over the area. Now, this is supposedly an incident that happened inside the airport. and they supposedly have the shooter in custody. So why all of and if you're watching the footage, by the time you listen to this, if you watch the footage, this question should make sense to you. If you have the alleged shooter in custody and the incident happened inside of the airport, why the need for all of this drama outside? I mean, literally, people were being rushed off the tarmac to like adjacent areas surrounding the airport. Footage of people ducking behind cars, including law enforcement officers taking cover behind vehicles and then like directing people, run towards me or run across the street, get behind those cars. And this was something that happened inside the airport. Now, the point that I'm getting to is this. This drama is necessary in order to heighten the fear of the people watching. Mark my words, we are about to enter into a new era of heightened security. Like, remember after 9/11, how, the TSA came into being and, you used to be able to go into the airports and see your loved ones off, where you can't do that anymore. If you're not flying, you don't get in and all that type of stuff. So the world, our culture changed after 9/11. This is going to be another one of those moments where we're going to see some sweeping changes in terms of how we travel in the U.S. And Americans are going to go right along with it, hook, line, and sinker, because we're afraid. Many of us are afraid. And all of this extra drama is just designed to reinforce that fear. And it's also an exercise. Clearly, this is an exercise. Because it's not justified. If there is a fire in my kitchen, there's no need and after the fire has been contained, there's no need for the fire department to go next door and start busting out windows in the house across the street or next door. There's no need for that. Like, that would be extremely suspicious if there's a fire in my kitchen and the fire is contained and actually put out, and then the fire department shows up with like 20 trucks, SUVs, tons of personnel, and they're actually going all down the street and bursting out windows in other homes and all across the street and around the corner for this one little fire in my kitchen. And that's, to me, what that is what this equates to. This shooting happened inside the airport, and you have the alleged shooter in custody. Another thing I like to point out is, how is it that non-black people, strike that, non-black people are able to murder and be taken into custody? Yet, black people get pulled over for a broken tail light and end up at the morgue. And yet, everyone wants to keep saying all lives matter. And everybody wants to say, these shootings are not race motivated and things like that when it comes down to cops killing unarmed black men and women. It's not about race. Yet we have another example of a non-black person, because I'm sure this 26-year-old Esteban Santiago is not a black person. Sounds more Mexican, Cuban, perhaps, because it's Florida. But at the end of the day, it's a non-black person. I'd be willing to put money on that. Has killed 5 people, allegedly, He was armed, injured 8 people, and yet is peacefully taken into custody. So how is it that black people continue to get pulled over for, broken tail lights or, just silly stuff, switching lanes without signaling, and end up dead? Standing in front of a liquor store, end up dead. Now, I know these are 2 separate issues, but I just think that it's noteworthy. It's something to consider as I continue to tell black people we are under attack in this country. We are behind enemy lines. And this should be another example to prove that point. But also, I'm just saying, this is a clear example of the powers that be using a situation to double down on the fear. And mark my words, in the coming days or weeks, particularly as Donald Trump takes office, you're going to see sweeping draconian legislation that will impact the way you travel, particularly by air. So I just wanted to take some time out to point out all the drama surrounding this shooting, and to be one of the first people to tell you that part of this is not allowing a crisis to go to waste. So just keep that in mind as you see the details develop, the story develop. We'll probably hear from the president as well as the president-elect in the coming hours. And we'll come back and talk about it and keep it. We'll continue to follow this story for you at Corapro. Again, this is Corapro. My name is Jay Outlaw. Corapro being counter-racist program. That's what we're about here. Special transmission. And we'll continue to follow this story. We'll be back with more as the details come forward and develop. Peace.
Fighting back against the people who maintain the system. This is the Corapro broadcast with Jay Outlaw.